So when I worked at NASA, I had the opportunity to take a really cool class taught by a neuroscientist that explored a lot of the different key aspects of the way our brain works and how that interacts with modern society. There were quite a few elements to that class that would take a while to go through, so I'll make it a multi-part series to cover the different aspects. So I'm going to start off by telling an extremely embarrassing story about myself. So my sophomore year in high school, I got called to the nurse's office, which you know is never good, and told me that somebody that had spent some time around recently came positive for lice. So they wanted to check me as well. So they went through, they checked, and they didn't find anything. I didn't have lice, but protocols insisted that because I'd spent some time around this person, that I also have to be excused from school for 2 weeks. So I didn't think too much of it. It took 2 weeks off of school, didn't mind. Went home, did my 2 weeks, and I moved around a lot while I was growing up. So I was the perpetual new guy. So I had just been going to this school since that beginning of that school year. So I didn't really know everybody that well, but I did have some friends here and there. So thankfully, the 2 weeks ended the day before the Valentine's Day dance. So I was like, oh, perfect. All right, I can go to the dance. And I didn't really think anything of it. And so the day of the dance comes, I show up and I start noticing just something feels a little bit off. So after a little while of friends that I would expect to just be down to just hang out and dance and things like that, normal high school dance things, something just felt different. And I was kind of getting the cold shoulder. And eventually, one of my friends who was a nice, down to earth cowboy type of guy comes up to me and he goes, oh, hey, you got rid of your lice, huh? And I was just instantly in shock as all the pieces came together in the puzzle. And I realized just why everyone was ignoring me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, oh, yeah, as soon as they called you off to the nurse's office, the janitor came and hosed down your entire locker, and everybody was talking about how you had lice. And it hadn't even crossed my mind that that's why people would be giving me the cold shoulder all night, because in my mind, I didn't even have lice to begin with. So I correct my friend, told him no, never even had it, and abruptly decided that was the end of my night and I went home. But talk about an embarrassing experience. Thankfully, that was before the days of social media because who knows what would have happened. So, what does that have to do with my class that I took at NASA? Well, one of the key elements of this course was talking about what's called the social pain of exclusion. So, some psychologists did a study in Purdue where they had volunteers come in, and there was a game called Cyberball. Simple virtual game where a ball gets tossed between three people, and you're one of those people as the volunteer. And eventually, they programmed it to where the other two people would stop throwing you the ball. Now, the volunteer was told that the other two players were, in fact, other people, but in reality, it was just a video game. And what the psychologist saw was that the exact same part of the brain that's responsible for physical pain lit up in the volunteer subject as soon as the game, the other players stopped throwing him the ball. And that's when they stumbled upon this social pain of exclusion phenomena, where the human brain actually treats social exclusion and isolation the same as it does physical pain. So, why does our brain do this? Well, if you think about it from the tribal days, the way humans survived is by being part of the tribe or the pack, and our survival depended on it. So if you suddenly found yourself not valuable to the group or socially outcast from the group, you were inching your way towards impending doom at that point. So our brains developed this need and this desire to be socially accepted and wanted to the extent that we feel physical pain when we get rejected. So when you hear the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, it's actually incorrect. Words actually do hurt you in the same sense that physical pain does from your brain's perspective. So now extending this into more examples, essentially any time that you can be excluded from a group, whether you're the last person to be picked at the kickball game or there's something different about you compared to the rest of the group and you get isolated and ostracized from the group, you experience this same exact phenomena and are likely experiencing the equivalent of physical pain because of it. Or if you encourage that behavior in the group that you're involved in against somebody else, you're doing the exact same thing to that person. So this day and age, when everybody's getting a lot of their socialization online, video games, social media, etc., it has the exact same impact on those people online. So this is where in the most extreme cases, you have kids like 10-year-olds being bullied to the extreme extent of committing suicide because the pain is so severe and so strong, it's the only way they feel that they can escape it. And this also highlights the benefit of making people feel wanted and included, anywhere from in your family, making your kids feel like they're actually accepted and wanted in the family nucleus, to the small group settings in your school or your work, and highlights just how detrimental it is to not feel included in a group. So, if your goal is for you to meet your full potential, or for your kids to reach their full potential, or for your subordinates at work to reach their full potential. This truly highlights the importance of making people feel safe and comfortable in their work environment and not feeling like they're ostracized and excluded. And in this course at NASA, we went through quite a few heavy topics, everything from race and religion, but we also went through some simpler ones that you wouldn't quite expect, like being left handed. If you're not left handed, you might not realize, I'm not, by the way, but the class was big enough that the instructor was able to call on multiple left handed people there in person and get their take on what their experience is like. And it was unbelievable how many things in society are tailored to right handedness. And then the instructor moved on to tattoos. And if you didn't know, I have a big arm tattoo here. And at NASA, that's quite rare. And when he started talking about tattoos, there was an elderly lady at one of the nearby tables that actually said, "We don't have that problem at NASA of tattoos." So now, if you extend this to things like girls getting taught that women aren't good at math or science, or if you're one of the only black kids in the school or Indian kids in the school, there's essentially anything that isolates you from the group can trigger this outsiderness and make you feel like you're excluded and not welcome. And one of the really tricky elements to this is that everybody wants to feel like they're part of the in group. Everybody has this intrinsic need to fit in somewhere with some form of group. And if your group has labeled a concept or another individual as an outsider, chances are that other group has also labeled your group an outsider. And so you start to create this natural divide in society between the two groups. Does this sound familiar? And the real danger is people in neither group can begin to identify or relate to anything that the other group stands for, or they threaten being ostracized by their own group, which is the last thing that people want. But one interesting part of this is if you happen to find yourself in a position of leadership within a social group, you actually have the power to change this because individuals in the group do not want to feel like they're going out on a limb and potentially getting kicked out of the social harmony. They will follow the lead of the group in general. So if the leadership within a social group finds something new acceptable, then the rest of the group is likely to follow. So this is where the simple act of the new guy at work or the person that's slightly different than everyone else, if you act as a bridge to bring that person into the group and make them feel welcome and invited, the rest of the group is likely to follow your lead in that. So hopefully this sheds a little bit of light on the true dangers of isolation and exclusion in society, the reality of just how painful it can be to people to experience that, how the simple act of helping people feel included can increase overall productivity in a workplace, the performance of a team in an athletic setting, or enable your children to be successful in their lives. I know one of my theories has always been when it comes to the increase in school shootings across America is that this is a key element to it. As the in-person social interactions have dwindled over time over the years, more and more people are feeling the extreme sense of this social isolation and exclusion to the extent that they end up diving deep into these unhealthy holes with no real sense of escape. So I know for my kids, one of the key things we try to encourage is the inclusion in social activities and being involved and finding places where they feel like they can express themselves and feel like they fit into a group. And in your daily life, maybe there's someone that you can identify that is being ostracized or excluded for no good reason, and you can find ways to include them. I'm sure they will appreciate it. And I'll leave you at that.